When I was pregnant, I thought the worst thing I'd have to deal with was morning sickness and swollen ankles, not betrayal from inside my own family. I'm 29, married to my husband, Evan, 32, for 4 years. We just had our first baby, a little girl named Lily, 3 months ago. I won't pretend our marriage has been perfect. We've had our ups and downs, especially with money and in-laws, but I never once doubted Evan's love for me. Not until now. Everything seemed normal after Lily was born. Exhausting, yes, but normal. Evan was so proud to be a dad, always showing her off, taking pictures, calling her his little twin. We both have dark hair and light eyes, and Lily came out with a head full of dark curls and the biggest blue eyes I've ever seen. The weirdness started with Evan's younger brother, Josh. He's 26, newly divorced, and always had a bit of a jealous streak. He's made passive comments before about Evan being the golden child and getting everything he wanted: job, house, wife, baby. I never took it seriously until 3 weeks ago when I walked into the kitchen and found Josh holding Lily and staring at her like she was a science project. I asked what he was doing, and he kind of snapped out of it and said something weird like, "She looks different. Are you sure she's Evan's?" I laughed at the time. I thought it was just another one of his weird little digs, so I brushed it off. But the next day, I noticed something strange: a little bandage on Lily's heel, like the kind they use after drawing blood. I hadn't taken her anywhere. Neither had Evan. And Josh? He was the only other person who'd been alone with her recently. I confronted Evan first, thinking maybe he took her for some routine test and forgot to mention it. But he looked confused. Then his face changed, like something clicked. He said Josh had offered to babysit while he ran to the pharmacy the day before. Only for 30 minutes. That's when my heart dropped. I asked Evan if he thought Josh would ever do something, I don't know, crazy, like steal a sample of Lily's blood. Evan got defensive immediately, told me Josh would never do that, and that I was being paranoid. He even got mad at me for bringing it up. But something felt wrong, and 2 days later, my instincts were proven right, in the worst possible way. Because Josh came clean. But not to me, to Evan. And what he told him shattered everything I thought I knew about my marriage. So apparently Josh had been harboring suspicions about Lily not being Evan's since the day she was born. I didn't know this at the time, but after Lily's birth, Josh started comparing baby photos, digging through Evan's old albums, obsessing over eye color genetics, and making snide comments to other family members. He even asked Evan's mom if she thought Lily looked a little off. And then, without saying a word to either of us, Josh stole a sample of Lily's DNA. He admitted to Evan that he'd swabbed the inside of her cheek one afternoon while babysitting, claimed it was just to get peace of mind. He mailed it to one of those shady online paternity test companies that don't require formal consent. And get this, he didn't even tell Evan when the results came in. He waited, held on to them, said he wasn't sure what to do with the information. Only after I started asking questions, after I noticed the heel bandage and started putting things together, did he finally fess up. And what he told Evan next destroyed every ounce of stability we had left. He said the test came back negative, that Evan wasn't Lily's biological father. When Evan told me that, I literally couldn't breathe. I felt like the floor had dropped out from under me. I had no idea what to say, no idea what to think. Because here's the thing, I never cheated on Evan. Not once. Not emotionally. Not physically. Not even close. And yet here we were, my husband standing in the kitchen, eyes red, voice trembling, asking me if there was something I needed to tell him. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I told him the truth, that I had never been with anyone else, that I loved him, only him, that the test had to be wrong. But he didn't believe me. Not entirely. He kept saying, "I want to believe you. I do. But what else am I supposed to think?" And honestly, I understood his confusion. I did. If I were in his shoes, I'd be questioning everything too. But the thing that hurt the most wasn't just that Josh violated our trust. It was that Evan didn't shut it down. He didn't say, "That's my wife, and I trust her." He said, "We need to get another test, a real one." So now, here I am, sitting in the guest room at my parents' house, with Lily asleep next to me, waiting on official paternity results that I already know will say what I've been saying all along, that Lily is Evan's. But will that even matter now? Because even if the test comes back positive, my marriage already feels broken, and I don't know if it's fixable. The results came in this morning. I didn't even have to open them. The moment I saw the email notification pop up, my hands started shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. But I did open it. Alone. Sitting at my parents' dining table with Lily asleep in her stroller beside me. And just like I knew from the start, Evan is the father. There it was. Plain as day. 99.99% probability. No room for doubt. No gray area. No question. I should have felt vindicated. Relieved. Even a little smug. But all I felt was empty. Because while that test cleared my name, it didn't erase what had already happened. It didn't undo the nights I cried myself to sleep because the man I loved looked at me like a stranger. It didn't take back the fact that Josh, someone I welcomed into my home, took my child's DNA without my consent. And it definitely didn't fix the silence I got from Evan the moment I sent him the results. No, I'm sorry. No, I should have trusted you. Just silence. It's been hours. He read the message. I know he did. My phone shows it. But nothing. And honestly, that's what's breaking me right now. Because if the roles were reversed, if someone accused him of cheating and I found out he was innocent, I would have dropped everything to be with him, to apologize, to make it right. But all I'm getting is silence. I spent the whole afternoon thinking. Not about Josh. I've made up my mind about him. He's never setting foot near me or Lily again. I don't care what kind of concern he thought he had. What he did was sick, controlling, and flat out illegal. No, I spent the day thinking about Evan, about the look in his eyes when he asked me if there was something I needed to tell him, about how quickly he let Josh's word become truth, about how the second things got hard. He doubted me. Not once did he say, I know you. Not once did he say, that's not possible. He just let it happen. And now that the truth is out, he can't even look me in the eye. So when he finally texted me tonight, finally after hours of silence, I didn't feel excited or hopeful. I just felt tired. All he said was, can we talk? And I don't know if I want to. I agreed to meet Evan. Not because I wanted to fix anything. I wasn't even sure what I wanted, to be honest. Closure, maybe. Or answers. Or just the chance to look him in the eye and ask why. Why he didn't trust me. Why he let his brother poison our home. Why the first instinct wasn't to protect me, the mother of his child, but to quietly suspect me instead. We met at a park near our old apartment. Neutral ground. My parents watched Lily so I could focus without distractions. When I saw him, my chest tightened. He looked like a wreck, unshaven, bags under his eyes, like he hadn't slept in days. I expected him to come running with apologies, to grab my hands, to say all the things I'd been aching to hear. He didn't. He just sat down on the bench beside me and stared out at the empty swings for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked. He said he didn't know how to start, that nothing he said would change what he did, that no apology would ever be enough, and he wasn't expecting forgiveness. Then he told me something I didn't expect. He said the reason he believed Josh wasn't just the test. It was something else, something he'd never told me. 6 years ago, before we got engaged, he found out his dad wasn't really his biological father. Apparently Evan's mom had a short affair in her 20s, and Evan was the result. The truth didn't come out until his dad took a genetic test as a joke for one of those ancestry sites, and the results didn't match. Evan said the fallout was massive. His parents nearly divorced. His mom broke down and admitted everything. And while they eventually worked through it, it left scars. Deep ones. He said ever since then, something in him changed. That part of him started believing betrayal could come from anywhere, even the people who love you the most. When Lily was born, and she didn't look exactly like him, those buried fears started whispering again. And when Josh, of all people, started planting seeds of doubt, he listened. He said he hated himself for it, that the moment he said the words, "We need a real test," he saw the pain in my face and wanted to take it back. But by then, it was too late. He started crying. Really crying. He said watching me walk out with Lily felt like his entire world cracked open, and that the past 3 weeks had been the worst of his life. He asked me if I could ever trust him again, if there was a version of us that could still exist after this, and I didn't know what to say, because I finally had my answer. I understood why he doubted me. It wasn't because he thought I was a liar. It was because he was still bleeding from someone else's wound. But does that make it okay? Does that undo what it felt like to be accused of cheating by the one person I thought would always have my back? I told him I didn't have an answer yet. That trust, once cracked, doesn't snap back into place just because the truth comes out. He nodded, said he understood, that he would wait as long as it took. He asked if he could see Lily. I told him, not yet. The day after I met Evan, Josh showed up at my parents' house. I hadn't spoken to him since everything came out. I figured I never would again. But there he was, on the porch, holding a gift bag like this was some kind of awkward birthday visit. My dad answered the door. The moment he saw Josh, his entire posture shifted. He didn't yell. He didn't even raise his voice. He just said, "You need to leave before I make you." Josh asked if he could speak to me for 2 minutes. Said he just wanted to explain. I don't know why, but I came out. Maybe I needed to see for myself if he actually felt guilty, or if he was still trying to play the victim. He handed me the gift bag, said it was a peace offering. Inside was a stuffed giraffe and a card that read, "I'm sorry for everything. You're a great mom. Uncle Josh." It made my skin crawl. I told him I didn't want anything from him. Not gifts, not apologies, just space and silence. But he kept going. He said he never meant to hurt me, that he only did the test because he cared about Evan, that he couldn't stand the thought of Evan raising a child that wasn't really his. I asked him, "And what gave you the right to decide that for us?" And do you know what he said? "Because I've seen what that kind of betrayal does to a man." Evan was too in love to see it. I wasn't. Like he was the hero in this twisted story. Like traumatizing an entire family was some noble act of protection. I told him I never wanted to see him again, that I would never forgive what he did, and that if he came near me or Lily again, I would get a restraining order. Josh looked shocked, hurt even, as if he genuinely thought this would end in a tearful hug, like he expected me to thank him. He left after that. And a few hours later, Evan texted me. He'd heard Josh tried to see me, and for the first time since everything happened, Evan was angry. He told me he hadn't known Josh was planning that he'd already cut him off, completely. Said Josh crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. It was the first time since the test that I felt Evan really stood up for me, but I didn't respond. I didn't know what to say, because even if Josh is the villain, Evan still handed him the match, and I'm still the one left holding the ashes. A week passed. I didn't see Evan. I didn't reply to his texts, but I did start therapy. I needed it, badly. Not just to process what happened, but to figure out where I went in all of this. Somewhere between becoming a wife, a mom, and a target of suspicion, I lost pieces of myself I didn't even realize were slipping away. My therapist asked me something that stuck with me all week. She said, "If your daughter went through what you're going through right now, what would you want her to do?" And I didn't even have to think about it. I'd tell her to walk away, to value herself enough to say, "This is not how love is supposed to feel," to protect her peace. But saying it and doing it are two different things. Because Evan wasn't texting excuses anymore. He was sending me photos of Lily he had saved. Her first smile, the day she came home from the hospital, a video of him singing to her when she had colic at 2 a.m. And then he asked if we could go to therapy together. Not to fix things, he said, just to talk. Honestly, with someone who could help guide the conversation. I agreed. I don't know why. Maybe I still believed there was a version of our story worth salvaging. Or maybe I just needed to know, deep down, that I tried everything. So, we went. Our first session was brutal. Evan looked wrecked. He barely made it through his opening words before breaking down. Told the therapist that watching me walk out was the worst moment of his life, and that every day since had felt like he was living in someone else's body. He admitted he didn't recognize the man he became. Paranoid, weak, afraid of something that hadn't even happened. He said he felt like Josh had been pulling the strings and he was too scared to cut them. But then he looked at me, with tears in his eyes, and said something I wasn't expecting. "You didn't just lose my trust. I lost yours. And I think that's worse." And God, he was right. Because every time he touched my hand, it didn't feel like comfort. It felt like confusion. Every time he said, "I love you," it echoed like a question, not a promise. The therapist said, rebuilding trust is like clearing a forest after a fire. You can't rush it. You can't force growth. You just have to create space for it and walk through the damage, slowly. And then, at the end of the session, Evan made a bold proposal. He asked if Lily and I would come home. Not to start over, not to go back to how things were, but to start fresh, from scratch, as roommates, as co-parents, to live under the same roof, not as husband and wife, but as two people who wanted to try. He said he'd move into the guest room, that I could take as long as I needed. He just wanted to be present for Lily and earn back my trust, one day at a time. And I didn't answer. Not yet. Because now, I have to ask myself the hardest question of all. Is rebuilding even possible? Or am I just scared to start without him? I went home. Not because I was ready. Not because everything was magically fixed. But because I needed to see, really see, what it felt like to stand in that house again. The home we built together. The nursery we painted with such excitement. The kitchen where I used to dance with Lily strapped to my chest, while Evan cooked pasta and sang terribly off-key. Now it just felt unfamiliar, like someone had rearranged the air. Evan kept his promise. He had already moved into the guest room before I arrived. No questions, no pressure, not even a hug when I walked through the door. Just a soft, "Hey," and then he disappeared upstairs while I settled in with Lily. That night was quiet. Too quiet. The silence sat heavy in every room. I put Lily to bed and stood outside her nursery for a long time, staring at the bookshelf Evan had built by hand. I remember how proud he was of it. How he stayed up until 3 a.m. one night, sanding the corners smooth, so she wouldn't get hurt when she started walking. That version of Evan felt so far away. I didn't sleep much that first night. But I didn't cry either. I think I'd run out of tears. The next morning, Evan was already making breakfast when I came down. He didn't say much, just offered me a plate and poured me coffee like it was any other day. And in a weird way, it helped. That quiet kindness. He didn't try to talk about us, didn't hover. He focused entirely on Lily, feeding her, reading her books, making her laugh, and she responded to him like nothing had ever changed. And that was the moment that gutted me. Because whatever else had happened between us, Evan is a good father. Lily knows him. She loves him. And I can't take that from her. For the next few days, we moved like careful roommates, coordinating baby duties, sharing short updates about work or groceries. No deep talks, no expectations, just space. And then, 4 days in, I found something. A notebook. It was sitting on the kitchen counter, left open, almost like he wanted me to find it. Inside were pages and pages of letters. To me, some dated from right after I left, others from the night he got the test results. Some as recent as last week. Letters he never sent. Letters he wrote and rewrote and crossed out and started again. One of them read, "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want you to know, if I could go back and stand between you and Josh that day, I would. I would tear up that stupid test and tell him to get the hell out. I would choose you, every time." Another said, "You looked at me like I was a stranger, and maybe I was. Maybe I became someone I swore I'd never be." And the last one, it was just one sentence. "You didn't just carry our child. You carried our future." And I dropped it. I closed the notebook and sat there for a long time. Not crying, not angry. Just feeling everything. Because I realized something. He knows what he did. He's not just sorry, he's changed. And I don't know what that means yet. I don't know if I'll ever be his wife again. But for the first time in weeks, I don't feel lost anymore. I feel grounded. And maybe that's the first step. It's been 3 weeks since I moved back in. 3 weeks of silence and soft moments, of baby giggles and cautious glances, of quiet rebuilding, not of our marriage, but of myself. Because before I could make a decision about Evan, I had to figure out who I was without the betrayal, without the fear, without the weight of proving myself to people who should have never doubted me. And for the first time in a long time, I know who that person is. She's a woman who stood tall while her character was torn apart. A mother who protected her daughter when everything else was falling apart. A partner who gave her husband a chance to show up. Not perfectly, but honestly. So this morning, I gave Evan my decision. We sat in the living room while Lily napped in her crib. I had the same notebook, the one he'd written his letters in, resting on my lap. And I told him, I'm not ready to be your wife again, but I'm willing to be your friend, and Lily's mother, and your partner in raising her. We rebuild from there, brick by brick. No pressure. No timeline. His eyes filled, but he didn't cry. He just nodded, like he already knew what I was going to say. I told him that if he ever doubts me again, if he lets someone like Josh get between us again, there won't be another conversation. That this right here is the last first step he'll ever get. He said he understood. And I believe him. We're taking family therapy seriously. We're relearning each other. We're parenting with intention, with softness, with transparency. And it's strange, because we're not back together in the traditional sense. There's no kisses goodnight, no holding hands, but we're closer than we've been in a long time. Because now, there's no pretending. Just truth. Josh? I've blocked him. Permanently. He's dead to me. And Evan hasn't spoken to him either. That bridge is ash, and it's staying that way. As for me, I'm finding my way. I signed up for a postpartum yoga class. I've been journaling. I've started reconnecting with friends I lost touch with during the chaos of new motherhood and marital breakdown. And most importantly, I'm choosing me, not out of spite, but because I finally understand that I'm allowed to be whole, even if someone else broke the trust first. And as I write this, Lily is crawling across the rug toward Evan, babbling her nonsense baby words, and he's laughing, kneeling down to catch her in his arms. It's not perfect, but it's peaceful. And maybe, just maybe, that's the life I was meant to fight for.